First, we'll go over which types of user roles have permission to first create and then approve journal entries. So this column will let us know who can create the journal entries. That would be the account level admin, leader, or staff, as well as the client manager or the client staff. And of course, you have a more limited set of users who can approve journal entries once they're created. That permission is with the account admin, the account leader, or the client manager. So let's say you have a user that should be able to create journal entries but shouldn't have a permission to approve them and needs to submit them to someone else for approval. You would want to assign that user with a staff level permission, whether it's the account staff level or the client or company staff level. And if your account has access to view journal entries or create journal entries, from the portal tab you should have two columns here, one to view the general ledger and one for journal entries here. And if for some reason you don't see these two columns, you may have to come up here in the top right hand corner and click Reset Layout, and then they should appear. So to create a journal entry, we'll come to the JE column and we'll click on View next to the entity for the QuickBooks file you'd like to add the entry for. So I want to go to the Austin location. This will take us to the journal entry management screen. If I had created any journal entries already that I was waiting to have approved, they would show up here, but I have none, as you can see. So if we want to create a journal entry, we'll come up here in the top right hand corner and click the green Create Journal Entry button. Each journal entry does need to have a transaction date. You can also add a journal entry number. That's optional, but if you do include one, keep in mind there is a character limit of 11 characters. So come down here and you'll just select the first account name to be included in the journal entry. You can either click on this drop down and you'll see a list of all the accounts in the QuickBooks file, or you can start typing and any account that matches what you've entered will come up. So let's say you have employee payroll. Let's say we need to fix a payroll amount. I say $100. And this should come out of a cash account or perhaps bank. It's the more actually bank in this particular file. And of course, your debits and your credits need to match. A name here can be useful. If you're doing like an AR or AP entry, you can select from the customers or the vendors in the QuickBooks file. For this particular entry, don't need to enter that, but you will for AR and AP entries, memo, optional notes. And then if you have classes within the QuickBooks file and this entry needs to be for a specific class, the classes that are in the file, if there are any, will populate here. You can either select them from the drop-down or again just start typing and it will drill down to just those. And then once you're through, you'll just hit Save in the bottom right. And we've just saved our journal entry. It appears here, and it's ready to be approved by someone who's higher up. And if you have permission to approve journal entries, it's very easy to do so. Again, we'll come to the Portal tab first, over to the JE column, and we'll hit View here next to the entity where the journal entry we need to approve is. And our journal entry management screen looks a little bit different when we have permission to approve as well as create journal entries. You'll see a list of all the entries that are awaiting approval here, ones you've recently approved. For some reason you need to review these in Excel. Outside of Qvinci, you can export to Excel here, and you can view a little bit about the journal entry awaiting approval here. So the entry number, the transaction date of the entry, when it was created, the amount, who created it, if it's been approved or rejected, here you can see it here, and whether or not it's been pushed back to QuickBooks yet. So one thing you can't see from here is the individual accounts listed in the entry. So if you want to see that before you decide whether or not to approve, you can come to the Edit button over here on the right. And this looks almost exactly like the screen to create a journal entry. So you can fix the transaction date, the journal entry name, the amounts in the individual transactions, and you can also add rows here if you need to, or exit out rows if that's the case. So we'll just say maybe I needed to correct the name here. If you need to make any changes, you'll just hit save here in the bottom right. And then you can come here to approve the entry, or if it's not needed at all, you can delete the entry completely or reject it here. We'll say this one's fine. We'll hit approve. If that was an accident, you can always come here and hit unapproved. But we see here that this is the user who has approved the journal entry, and now the sync status has changed to waiting for QuickBooks to sync. So we will need to wait for the person responsible for syncing the data for this file to connect before we can push the journal entry back. And you are now an expert on creating and approving and managing journal entries.